Hello and welcome back. In my last video I showed you how to run business logic, business rules against incoming data. So we are reading data from a file. It goes through the ExecuteRuleEngine Processor, and then based on if the business logic failed or passed, the data is output to files. Additionally, we output the details of what happened to a different file. So that is basically working like a filter. You apply business logic and then you filter based on if it's passed or failed. This time I'm going to show you how to update data using the ExecuteRuleEngine Processor. But the idea is the same. We get data from a file, we apply the business logic, and we output the results to a file. If we go to the business rules maintenance tool, where the maintenance of the business logic is done, and this is a web application, you can see here that I added some actions. Actions can be applied based on if the group of rules passed or failed. So like in the previous video, I have the same logic. The data is checked if the user has a valid driver's license, and if he's in a certain date range, and if he's outside this date range, if the user is willing to pay an extra fee to rent the car anyway. Now, based on if the logic passes or fails, I have two actions. So one action will be applied if the logic passes, and one action will be applied if the logic fails. If the business logic passes, then I will update a field in the data stream and set it to approved. In the other case, where the business logic fails, I will set that same field to denied. Okay, so it's a very simple flow. The idea would be that you have some sort of application, IoT tool, whatever, which produces the data, and then the output can be further processed, can be sent to Kafka or a database, whatever you like. Okay, down here I have a row of data that I will append to a file. So I have here Tom Robertson at the age of 40. He does not have a driver's license. He does not want to pay an extra fee. And this last field here, which is labeled as undefined, that is my status field, which will finally, after the processing ran, contain the results from the actions I showed you before. So it will contain approved or denied. Let's make a sample. Let's add this row of data to the file. You can see here on the right in my file explorer that the processed file turned up. So the data from my output to the file came into Nifi, ran through the business rules, and was output to this file. Let's have a look at this file. Okay, as expected, because Tom Robertson does not have a driver's license, which is defined in the fourth field, his application for renting a car was denied. Let's add another field. Let's say we have now Jack. He is 40, he has a valid driver's license, and anyway he is willing to pay an extra fee if that would be required. Going back to the business logic, this is what is checked. His driver's license, if it's valid, if the age is in a defined range, and if not, then if the user would pay an extra fee. If the record passes the business logic, then the last field in the output, the status field, is set to approved, otherwise to denied. Okay, let's add this row of data. I go back to the Nifi flow again. Okay, you saw this second file popped up, that is the file from the output here. You can also see that there was some output here, the second output in the tail file processor. So the row was picked up, again ran through the rule engine, through our business logic, and then the data was output. If we have a look at the file again, you can see Jack Robertson 40, which has a valid driver's license, was approved. Just what we expected from the base data of Jack. So you can see the ExecuteRuleEngine Processor can not only be used to filter data and then route the flow files in Nifi based on the business logic, but you can simply use it also to update the single data fields. Now, in the web tool where you define the business logic and the actions, you can simply add another action. You give it a name and a description. You can decide when the action is fired. So if your group of rules passes, if it fails, or both. You can select a field in the data record which you want to update, in this case the status field. And then you can select an action. As you can see, there are many predefined actions. You can do mathematical calculations like add or subtract or divide. You can work with dates. You can add days, hours, minutes. You can simply set values to a fixed value. And you can also do things like lowercase or uppercase. You can append or prepend values. You can replace values. You can set values to uppercase or lowercase. So there are many possibilities. So this is an easy way of updating your data, applying business logic And that covers also a lot of work that is done in ETL processes. So instead of hard coding the manipulation of the ETL or the formatting of fields or the filtering of fields, instead of hard coding that in the Nifi Dataflow, you can simply define it in the web application in business rules. And as you can see, that makes your data flow very simple. You do not hard code it in the data flow. It's decoupled from the actual flow implementation. It's decoupled, and so you can also have different group of users doing the different work. So the data flow is maybe put together by a data flow specialist or by an IT expert, and the business rules, the business logic, can be put together, orchestrated by a business user, because the business user is really that person that should know in detail what the business logic looks like for a certain purpose. And it's not the IT who should have the detailed business logic. So that would be business logic on contracts, for example, or other business logic to determine certain things like how to invoice things to the customer, or other business logic. So again, you have a separation of responsibilities. IT is responsibility for the IT part of the process, and the business would be responsible for the business logic. And so the business can also easily, through a web interface designed for user, to update the business logic, change the business logic. Business logic is put into projects, so you can have different projects. And as you can see in the menu on the left side, we have groups or roles of users. We have users who can update certain projects and others not. We have users that have only view privileges on the data. And you have different possibilities, like have a look at what was the last activity in certain projects, or you can search for your business rules. And finally, you can export your project to a file which is used by Apache Nifi to run the business logic. I hope you enjoyed this time and hope to see you back next time.